Well, how the hell is you supposed to know that? So I would hope everybody, if a person points a weapon at them, you don't know if it's loaded or not. You do what you have to do.
Exactly.
Assume they're going to take your life and handle it.
It's like that chase the other day with the motorcycle that was stolen. I don't know if you guys seen that on the news over in LA. All right, the cruiser's backed off. The helicopter's chasing him. He hit a car that was turning in front of him at over 100 miles an hour.
I did see that. Yeah. Did he survive?
No, he did. He was down on the hit the pavement.
Excuse me, could you say what you said about the, what was that, the force and fear or whatever it was, and it's now a misdemeanor? Because I missed that. I think people would really need to be educated as to that situation.
Yeah, so that's come down from the district attorney's office that a robbery, which
Right.
is I steal something from you directly, like force or fear, unlike a burglary where I steal your property and then you're not aware of it. But that is a misdemeanor.
Right.
And then, so that used to be a felony.
Yeah, that's supposed to
And so what they're saying is that, well, just because you're intimidated by me, that's only going to meet a misdemeanor.
See, we
as
gotta
opposed to me
watch.
pulling a gun or a knife or something like that, which they're still going to say that's armed robbery and they're going to make that a felony still.
Roy, you gotta watch what you're gonna post with what the officer just said.
Yeah.
Because if people are watching that.
Well, that's why I asked him, and I told him that stuff for the people,
Well,
to
and it's one of those
educate
things
them.
that, one of the things you entertained about,
Yeah.
you discussed that the frustrations of law enforcement
Yeah.
and some of those crimes, without saying the same time of going like, oh, really? So I just don't got to carry a gun now. I just got to get up to you and tell you to give me your money.
Right.
And you're intimidated by me because of the way I present myself, and then you hand it over. Well, now it's a misdemeanor.
But you also use the term force. So where is the line on the force? Obviously, if you have a knife or a gun, that's my life. I fear for my life.
Well, armed, meaning that I go over there and I take it from you. Right? So
Okay,
you have, let's say you're holding onto your
that's what
wallet.
you're calling force. Okay.
Yeah, that is force. So I'm not saying that I beat you up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he forcibly-
That's different. However, I think what from what I read it, so when you're talking about force, like if you were assaulted, but did the injuries meet out significance? So if it was just like I punched you and you went down to the ground and I took your stuff.
Lawyers will be happy. They'll
So,
love it.
Let me ask you this,
Love-
okay?
So you know what? I'm not fully sure because I haven't read the whole law in there, but it almost made it sound like that was another way, that I could take your stuff, and that's going to still meet or out that, as
But
opposed to you getting some sort of injury where it's going to require hospitalization or some sort of.
But then the level of resistance, for example, if I were to observe some person forcefully dragging this woman, she's attached to her purse, and I go up and execute some physical force to terminate this venture, if you will, then where's the line on that so that I don't get, hey, if the guy winds up with a broken arm or other injuries in this endeavor, because we don't know what this guy is going to do if he's confronted.
I think that's where it kind of falls in, and what is your perception? If she's being drugged along, if she's sustaining an injury, she quite possibly could. And now if she's getting drugged along and you go to assist her, being a good citizen, like you decide, hey, I'm gonna go to assist her, and you forcefully push him away so to protect her, and then something happens, this state's crazy. So he falls back, hits his head, ends up dying on that. You're probably gonna go for some sort of involuntary manslaughter thing. What happens at the DA's office? Who knows? They may sit there and, I don't know, like I said.
Okay.
Like I said,
This is totally for the purpose of educate. I don't go out and tell
No, I
them.
understand that, and that's the one part is that it's hard for the public because you turn around there and go like, well, man, we're already victimized, and the level of crimes that are escalating all over the county, and now all of a sudden, other crimes you're starting to make less significant, and when you make less significant crime, what is my ability to respond to that? You know what I'm saying? An armed robbery, somebody pulls out a gun on me, and I just happen to be at my house, and I pull a gun and I shoot them and kill them, then that's probably going to be justified because you can sit there and say, hey, I was feared for my life and the life and safety of my family members, and this is how
Just don't shoot them in the back as they're running away.
Home invasion, that's still felony, right? I mean, that's still, or...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My grandfather was filled.
Yeah, but like I said, you're getting a fuzzy line now. Because
Yeah.
you're turning around and saying that force or fear, so I break into your house and I go to steal your stuff.
Exactly.
At what point is it, are they going to sit there and say, well, that's a misdemeanor because I just broke in your house and I'm stealing your stuff. I didn't hurt you. You know what I
Doesn't
mean?
matter.
It does matter. I mean, it does matter when it comes to, like I'm saying, when you start changing the crimes and you start saying that, hey, I'm going to go over here and shoplift every single day, and as long as it's under a certain dollar amount, it's just going to be a
that's crazy.
misdemeanor
Yeah.
day after day after day after day.
Yep.
Whereas we used to sit there and say, okay, you commit a petty theft, you steal something, and now all of a sudden you do this again a week later. You've had a conviction. Let's say you've had a conviction, or you've done a day in jail for that. I'm going to charge you with what we called a petty theft with a prior, which enhanced it to a felony. That's gone. So when you start getting rid of stuff like that, because we don't want to incarcerate anybody, the problem is those criminals that are out there are still going to sit there and say, well, shoot, I can keep doing whatever I want. Perfect example, and I've used this example 100 times. The incident that we have where we pursued there was a Victor, what we call a Titzmeyer Victor, which is a stolen vehicle. We're chasing that vehicle up northbound on Grand Avenue. The vehicle stops at the 10th freeway in Grand Avenue. Pull the suspect out, the guy's a gang member. So as we're talking to him, he has in his possession a ticket from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department for a stolen vehicle that he had only a few days prior, where he was basically cite and released. He is on probation for, imagine, vehicle theft. What did he get from us? A citation and a release. How are you going to stop that level of
You're
crime?
not.
You're
You're
not.
not.
You're not. So that's the problem that we're dealing with right now, and the frustrations that we are dealing with. Because this whole thing, well, we don't want to put anybody in jail. Oh, COVID, we don't want to put people in jail for
The hell with it.
COVID. Oh, yeah.
That's the way I feel. You do the
Yeah.
crime, you do the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you now.
Sure.
Okay. I have a taser pulse. I don't know if you know what that is. It's similar to the tasers you use,
Okay.
only it's not as strong. Okay.
Okay.
It's legal to carry anywhere because it's not under the Firearms Act, from what I've read. In the case that you just talking to about Roy, about the force and this and that, ladies being drugged, and I use that on somebody,
That, in my mind, that lady's being assaulted, and you are using an appropriate amount of force to
Okay.
stop that assault on her.
right?
So,
Of course.
yeah. So, if you're inquiring about the volunteer program for volunteers on patrol, what we do is, let's say you come, like I said, you go through the process, you become a volunteer, and you become a volunteer on patrol. What you would do is, you would go to the station. You are given uniforms. You don't have to purchase the uniforms or anything like that. But we actually will provide you with the uniform. We'll provide you with the gear, the radios. We will provide you with the flashlights, if you so choose to come do this during the evening hours. And then so you'll come out. Usually you'll be given a list of these houses that are these vacation checks. But it's also like, I'm sure you want your neighborhood patrolled, and so. We ask that it's kind of like, hey, you become a service for everybody and all the neighborhood watches. So you kind of drive around and you just kind of look for things and vulnerabilities. People with their garage doors left open, and people that have their cars with the windows down and unlocked. And we have a lot of that, where you have people that just leave a lot of property and things inside their vehicles, which is why we get targeted so often for vehicle burglaries. So you'll drive through and you'll cruise through the neighborhood, and yeah, you can cruise through your neighborhood 20 times if you want. I mean, that's the whole idea, that you're going to be doing that. Now, we wouldn't be able to allow a car to stay overnight, only because being that it's left alone, who's going to be the one to ensure that it's not going to get stolen or that it's not getting broken
Is
into?
this car insured under the Sheriff's Department?
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's why, so what would happen is that you would sit there and say, oh, we're going to do an 8-hour shift, or we're going to do a 4-hour shift. And so you would be able to say, and designate when you wanted to do it. So you guys might want to say, hey, you know what, we have 4 of us from our neighborhood watch group. We like to do people to go out in pairs, just because there's safety in numbers. And then just say, hey, you know what, we'll do, Friday night.
Right.
And then, being that you're volunteers, one of the things you can do is communicate with me, and we can tell you, hey, you know what, we are seeing a trend during these times and these hours that we're getting these kind of crimes. And then you'll sit there and maybe you'll sit there and say, okay, you know what, we'll do that. We'll drive around from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. or till 9 p.m. And then we'll just kind of go through the neighborhoods and just kind of be that visual presence out there.
We wouldn't have the power to actually arrest anybody, right? I mean, we would just call.
Right.
Okay.
You would inform us. Yeah.
Okay.
If we've
Yeah.
seen an attack on somebody, like I just said to you about the taser,
Yeah. So being that so on that kind of thing, they're gonna want you to be witnesses and they'll notify, because you have a radio, and being that you have a radio, you can sit there and say, hey, we have an assault that's happening over here at such and such, just like somebody would call on a 911 line. But you're on the radio and getting direct response to us. So somebody who calls on the phone, 911, gets to the dispatch. Dispatch is taking that information down and relaying that information to the deputies.
Right.
As they relay that information, then the deputies get it and the deputies respond to it.
So basically, let the deputies handle it.
Let the deputies handle it, yes. Because what's going to happen is it's all going to be about liability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a liability. You're going to tase somebody and you're going to do something to intervene. And then all of a sudden, what's going to happen? The county is going to be liable for it.
Okay. That's all I
And
need to
so,
know.
yeah, and so we appreciate people that want to kind of step in and do that kind of stuff, but
See, my grandfather was Philadelphia Highway Motor Officer. So those rules that you were just explaining never appeared years and years ago. You messed up, you got knocked down. That's
Lots
all there was
changed.
to it.
yeah, the world is a different place.
Yeah.
The world's a
Yeah.
whole different place.
Yeah.
And so we want our volunteers to kind of be a support to us,
Mhm.
and then, but it's also, it's a support to your community.
Right.
So you guys, we have volunteers that kind of work Walnut, or we have volunteers that kind of work in Diamond Bar. And so the reason why, but one of the things about the vehicles is that those vehicles are kind of being cycled through. So you might sit there and sign up and say, hey, we want to work Rowland Heights between, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock.
I see.
We're going to do those 6 hours. And then there's probably another 2-person team that's saying, hey, you know what, we're taking that out to go work the Diamond Bar area. Now we have enough vehicles now. We actually have a few extra volunteer vehicles, so that shouldn't be a problem with more than 2 or 3 little teams going out at the same time.
Right. Okay.
What's the difference between us volunteering and become a volunteer patrol in those patrol cars versus, say, our neighborhood, everybody pitch in and hires a private security team that patrols our neighborhood and just our neighborhood and also have their own security besides we got paid.
No,
of course.
anybody can do that. Anybody can hire
And then we're
a
going to
private
be
security.
liable if they shoot somebody.
Well, not necessarily, but the thing is that say you hire a security crew. It's not going to be inexpensive.
Yeah.
No.
So you're going to have to pay for that. And then you also are going to have to rely on the fact that you've got a good organization that's going to do it. We've had some people that will turn around there and they will hire a security company. And then for money reasons, they'll turn around there and say, okay, we're going to hire this group. And then this group says, okay, we'll come and we'll do 1 hour in your area to try to save costs. But you never know what hour they're going to come
Oh,
and do
that's
that.
true.
And so now they may have 5 or 6 or 10 different locations that they go through in a shift. And when are they going to come through? So is this person going to kind of hustle through your neighborhood really quick and then be
Right.
gone?
We need to.
And now what is your coverage? So if they come through your neighborhood and they spend 20 minutes or half an hour in your neighborhood,
Right.
and let's say they do it at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, that may or may not be a good time. I mean, when is all your incidences happening?
They don't have that information where you guys do.
Well, and we've not, and we haven't had it to where we're not opening that information for our security people. You know,
Right.
if we have HOAs, we have different organizations that will call us, and they will ask, hey, what's happening? Or can you give us
Can't
some
do that.
trends? Well, we can. We can give them that information. That's public. That can be disseminated to the public. You can go on crimemapping.com and you can look and see where incidences are happening. And it's not going to say 18753,
Right.
but it's going to say the 18600 block or the 1800 block of whatever. So you've got a general idea. And when you look at the map, because it'll provide you a map, it just has a little icon. And each one of those icons represents some specific crime. So that icon will be like a burglary, or the icon will be something like that. And you click on that, and it'll give you little specifics. Just being, it was a strong arm robbery, and that it happened it happened at this time, and it happened in this general guy's location.
Yeah, I use that, and boy, is this a hot spot.
I know,
Oh,
that's what
boy.
I'm saying, that the deputies, the sheriff's department can also tell us, like in Rowland Heights, just say me and him are teamed up, okay? We're having issues here, you guys wanna keep your eyes open, that kind of thing, that's a direct line.
Yep.
Naturally, we're not gonna go out there and tell everybody in the world that,
Well, and anything that I send anybody on via email, you guys can send it to the whole neighborhoods. And that's why I kind of send them. I have my neighborhood watch folks that I send it to. I know Roy's on them, and I know you guys, that all you guys got to do is sit there and forward it on. In fact, that's what I kind of hope is the purpose of my neighborhood watch captains, that I send them something, and then they know their core little group of people in their specific neighborhood, that they forward that information on. The Malkins are very good about doing that. There's a few people that are really good about sending that stuff through.
Right out.
When I send stuff out, I tend to send them to all my neighborhood watches. I send them to all the churches here, so all my interfaith groups that are within Rowland Heights,
Right.
and then my advisory council folks. So I want to make sure that, and the advisory council includes the school district and a few other people, that we can kind of disseminate that information out to the largest mass of people. So there's no secrets here. I don't believe in that. I don't think that that benefits anybody. I know there was a time where there was this whole thing about, we don't want to get the public in a panic. But I'll tell you right now, when it's time for the public to panic, they should. I think that doesn't do me any service to tell you everything's fine when you out in the community can say, wait a second, we see these problems here. Because then it just invalidates my credibility. So I would rather turn around there and tell you, yeah, right now you guys are getting hit hard with vehicle burglaries. Right now we're having a problem with this. Right now our homeless are out of control. Right now we have,
What's the homeless? Do you actually have power or legal rights to tell them, hey, you cannot be here? What's going on that right
well,
now?
and here's the thing. So what happens if the homeless there's no prosecutions being done. So I can write a ticket and I can hand it to this homeless person. And this homeless person will sit there and they don't go to court in 2 months or whenever it happens. And because what happens is that ticket that I gave doesn't even go before a judge.
Right.
And since it doesn't go before a judge, there's really no difference than giving a ticket, tearing it up, and throwing it in the garbage. It serves the same purpose. Now, that doesn't mean we aren't going out there and contacting them. And what it seems to be, there's this big shuffling of people. We go over there and say, this person called and complained, so you need to leave. And they pack their stuff up and they move to some other little area. And until that person over there calls and complains about it, it's just a matter of moving personnel. Now, we understand we're not upset with the people for being homeless. You know what I'm saying? People are down and out. People are having hard times and stuff. But some of the people that are out here are not. They're there for. There's a significant number of people that are there because there's problems. They're dealing with some sort of mental illness, or they're substance abusers.
Right.
And what happens is, and a lot of times they're both. So you turn around and have somebody that's on psychiatric medication. It makes them tired. It makes them slow. It makes them kind of down. And so to kind of uplift themselves, they subsidize it with methamphetamine or a different kind of drug. Now, when you mix those chemicals, who knows what you're going to get?
You're going to get a nut. Yeah.
Well, and even better yet is when you turn around there and say, well, the meth is making me feel better. So then they stop taking the psychiatric medication. So the only thing they are using is the methamphetamine. So now all of a sudden you get a completely different dynamic. Or they turn around there and they stop using the methamphetamine and they're not on anything. We have all kinds of people that are out there doing some pretty wild and wacky stuff. But I'll tell you right now, from the sheriff's department, I can tell you this right now, easily, half of the calls we go to every day, at minimum, half of our calls, transients and people with mental illness. Our services, we are doing that. And so these organizations that are out there, these homeless coalitions and groups like that, I've had them say a variety of different things. They want to work with law enforcement, but they have this perception that we're overbearing. I've had them say that I'm causing trauma to the homeless. And I've told them, I say, let me tell you something right now. When I get a call from the public, because they're upset because there's somebody who's defecating in public in front of other people, that's a crime, okay? So don't turn around there and make it seem like I'm causing a problem to the homeless person. They're doing something that's a quality of life issue for the entire community. And we have issues with that. So me and the homeless coalitions haven't exactly been the best of friends because I think that they could do better. And I think what happens is the Board of Supervisors hires these people out. They come out there and they say, do you want our services? No? Okay, well I've done my part. Well, that you're not doing your part. The idea is to turn around there and be successful. I've had people turn around there and say that what we do out here is we find homes for the homeless. Okay, and I've been working with these homeless people for 2 years. Anybody in a business world, if I was to tell you that I'm doing the job, but after 2 years, it still hasn't been done, would you keep me employed?
Nope.
No. So They hate when I talk about this because, but it's being honest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody holds us accountable. Everybody holds law enforcement to the highest accountability, and you know what? We should be. We got to do it better. We got to do it better. You know what I'm saying? We have split-second decisions to do stuff, but we got to make reasonable ones. You know what I'm saying? And that's why sometimes, well, people might second guess some of the stuff we do, but when it all comes to play, when you're stopping and thinking about it, you know what? You know, that deputy, based on his experience, you know, versus a brand new deputy that just came out here that doesn't have the same experience as maybe me, who's been out doing this for 20 years in patrol, who might sit there and say, okay, I've handled a number of these situations, and maybe I can kind of come at it from a little different angle. But that's just life experience. And you know, the problem is you know, we have a variety of deputies out here. We have a variety of things, and now you're changing crimes and saying crimes are these are no longer crimes, and so and then now we're dealing with that, and then like I said, you're dealing with the homeless stuff. That's a significant amount of time. A significant amount of our time.
It's too much time.
Well, and we heard this thing of that, you know, they got to talk about, we want to have social services, we want to have all these different things. Well, then get them.
Yeah.
Then get social services out here. But I think that's not the most credible solution. You know, yeah, you could bring somebody who's a social worker to come out here and try to provide services to these homeless people, but what happens when they don't want to go? What happens when they don't want your service? To just turn around there and say, okay, I tried, and then to leave, well, that just says, community, deal with it.
Yeah.
Now here comes the sheriff's department. Now sheriffs, you solve it. Okay, we solve crimes. We deal with the crime stuff. So when we're trying to say, okay, let's go handle this stuff. Well, we didn't like the way you guys handled it. Okay, well, provide us a solution. We would love to have social workers coming out here and taking up and offering these kinds of services. But then they turn around there and say, well, we don't have them. The last couple of years have been really tough because of the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So now you have the COVID issues where you turn around there and you have the churches that used to house the winter shelters. Well, now what would happen is one person would test positive at a shelter, they'd shut the shelter down for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So now where do they go? Now it's not a ton of shelters. I got a sheet of paper saying, here are the shelters for LA County. And when I looked at it, I was kind of like, you've got to be kidding. They had a handful of shelters, and I think when I looked through the whole thing, there was 300 beds. There's 300 available beds. Some of them were only females, some of them were like, you know, whatever, but I'm thinking like 300.
That's nothing.
Have you been to Venice? Do you know how many are in Venice
I know,
alone? Do you know how many are in friggin' Skid Row?
Yeah.
How many are in
They've
what?
cleaned up Venice, huh?
Oh my God, how many are here?
Yeah, that's true. That's probably most of them probably came from.
And that's the thing. So I mean, we have a variety of folks. So we have the tunnel over there behind at Shabara, and so LA County Parks was going over there and they were removing. They'd post it, tell everybody you gotta leave. We'd go over there to help them. Hey guys, it's posted. You guys gotta take off. This is county parks property. And everybody was usually most everybody was compliant. They grabbed their stuff, they moved on, they cleaned everything up, and then it was only after 4, 5, 6 days, 7 days, they slowly
back
kind
again.
of approached back in.
Yeah.
And then it got to where LA County Parks is saying, we're being told that we're just gonna do this like on a weekly basis. So, all right. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah.
Just for public information, I haven't been there in 2 weeks so far, but Kevin of the Parks and Recreation has stated, and I have the email of confirmation, that they're going to close that underpass completely,
Finally.
block it off.
Yeah, so the idea behind that was to turn around there and just fence it. So similar to the horse trail
Yeah.
that they did underneath Kalima, that
Right.
was over there by, that went from the McDonald's to the other side behind the old nursery.
Yeah.
What they did there is they just completely sealed it off. So I told them, I said, the tunnel that's over there off of Calle Barcelona, you might as well seal it off.
Yep.
Because they were like, well, people use it. I go, no.
No.
The idea of that tunnel was for people that were on horseback.
Right.
That could go underneath Kalima. They could take that little trail right behind Pheasant Ridge Apartments and then come out and go underneath Calle Barcelona and access Shabaran Park. But if their horse trail is blocked off there at Kalima, there is no horse stable area to bring horses. You know what I mean? So you might as well just seal it off. But then it become a matter of like, well, who's going to pay for that? That's true. Who's going to fund that? Who's going to pay for? Yeah.
And to your point, that's why for over 25 years, when Don Kanabe and Dick Simmons were here as a supervisor team, that I called it the Horseless Equestrian Subway, and because I was painting out the graffiti multiple times a week, and you got to shut this off. So finally, a good thing has been done because of Kurt Hagman jumped in. They're going to develop that nursery there, and he has a little more influence than I do. So a good thing has happened there.
The nursery going to turn that nursery into what?
A supervisor from another county, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes a good mix, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you gotta find realistic solutions. So, I mean, that property's been sitting there for a long time. It's constantly, it's only a matter of time, and then somebody it gets housed by a homeless person will move into that. And then it only becomes an issue when all of a sudden, hey, they're lighting fires.
Yeah. It's the winter, you know, they're trying to keep warm.
Right.
We get like calls all the time, and it's like you can see the
What
smoke.
gets me with all the abandoned buildings that the county or whatever can't take over and go to somebody who's homeless, say, listen, we got this place. We'd like you to go there. All you gotta do is we'll provide you with the materials, just fix it up inside, okay? You have heat, you have air conditioning, you have lighting, you have restroom, whatever. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. They're putting all this money elsewhere in this state where it don't belong. Okay, it's like the governor right now, okay, immigrants, legal or illegal, all right, can have free medical. Who's paying for that?
I think it's going to be on the video.
That's okay. He just
I know
wants
it's your opinion.
public thought. And then when I can speak again, you let me know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's something that's key on this. As you may know, I'm Roy Humphreys, and I've been doing this for our community for 35 years, and in May, I'm pulling the plug. And here's the key issue. It's on the buzz and the coordinating council and so forth. How do you get a population, there's like almost 52,000 people here in Rowland Heights to participate in anything. Look, tonight, with your community over here on the west end, two
Look
of
who's
you
here.
show up. You know?
Yeah.
Two of us.
And so this is the apathy is
Oh, I know.
is a deadly disease. So that I'm not going to say anything else. So
Well-
thank you, gentlemen.
You know that it has been difficult to outreach. There's a few organizations that are out there that are doing better, that have kind of formed. Together Against Crime Foundation has kind of come out, and I'm not a big Zoom meeting fan guy, but I know in the era that we're in right now, people are more comfortable because of the COVID stuff, but it also has huge outreach. They created a meeting for me to talk, and they had over 100 participants. That's huge. You don't even get that at the coordinating council. You don't get them at any of these meetings where you're going to get 100 people that are going to be sitting there. It has to be like a really major type, but they can just make that happen like that. So that's a significant resource for us to disseminate information. And everybody has the same concerns and the same issues. I mean, there's the things, everybody wants a quality of life, and everybody wants safety, and everybody wants good educations for their children, and all the stuff that we all want. It's just a matter of how do we go about doing it? You know what I mean? And this is the last few years have been actually a pretty kind of a trying time, especially for law enforcement, but for the communities as well.
Sure.
COVID and everything else.
We talk about COVID and a pandemic and the anti-law enforcement kind of.
They've taken away your power as an officer of the law, okay? You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
You can't
Will
do
you
this,
finish?
okay? And these thugs all know it. So guess what happens? They just keep doing what they're doing. Go ahead, Doug.
Just for information, if you can disseminate out there, every Tuesday, the County Board of Supervisors has their meeting. And everyone has the opportunity to make live public comment thanks to this virtual situation. And I have gotten on there multiple times to share the good thing, because for people do not realize what those people are doing downtown. That's the key situation. And for example, it's on there, so I'm not telling anything out of school here, that Supervisor Kuehl and four others, or three others, I call it the Gang of Four, want to tear down men's jail before there's anything to take the place of that function. And so before you go to law enforcement, you think it doesn't complicate their situation?
Oh, yeah.
So to get, again, the engagement, how do you get people to engage? Thank you.
The only way you get them to engage and get involved in it is if they have the problem,
Exactly.
okay? They've been jumped, or they've had a knife or a gun flashed in front of their face, okay? That's the only way they're gonna get involved.
It's getting there.
The reserve.
No secret.
On Colima, you know, the science, they're teaching the dispatch, you know, truck driver.
Oh, yeah, on the corner.
Yeah.
I'm too old, otherwise I'm not mad.
Never too old.
It's not an easy job. It's not.
I'm too short too.
You would think it would be a good position only because there's so much more
It is
online
not
shopping.
Yeah.
anymore, it is not. The problem is, the truck stops available and parking for trucks is from 10 years ago,
Yeah.
okay? If you're not in a truck stop between 5 and 6 o'clock at night, you're not getting a parking spot,
Oh.
Oh,
okay? Then you're on the side of the road. Then you're here, then you're there, then California Highway Patrol rolls up, and they'll write you a citation.
yeah.
I'm out of time, officer, what do you want me to do?
Right.
Okay, we have an 11-hour driving period. Okay, after 8 hours, you have to take a half-hour break. Okay, so then you have 3 left. Now, in an emergency situation, like a traffic crash, this or that out on the highway where you're shut down, you have a 2-hour, what they call long haul rule. So that lets you have 16 hours to get to a safe location, not to where you're delivering, unless it's within that 2-hour period. These guys are just wrecking trucks left and right. There's one in Illinois. I don't know if I got it here, it just happened the other day.